So, just to be real quick about this, equivalent fractions that you guys have been dealing with all your lives, you guys have recognized that to increase 2/5 to 4/10, you guys recognize that 2 times 2 is 4, therefore 5 times 2 is utilized and you achieve a 10. And your 4th grade teacher would say, good job, that's true, equivalent fraction, bravo. And what you've learned up to this point is, if I know some information about that, but I don't know the other number, assuming I didn't recognize to multiply by 2, I could cross multiply, and I would get 20 is equal to 5n, and by dividing, I would be able to solve directly for n's value, right? Using proportions, I think, is the easiest way to solve this type of a problem. But if you don't want to use proportions, you could also solve for the constant of proportionality, and you could see that on page 352. And this can be useful for some of these. I rarely use it, to be honest with you. Let's try an example just to make sure everybody's okay. All right? If y varies directly as x, and that is the common phrase used to describe this situation, and y is 25 when x is 15, find x when y is 40. Okay? So they're telling me when x is 15, y is 25, right? And they want me to find x when y is 40. Is that easy enough for us, right? You can do it two ways. You can multiply 15 by 40 and divide by 25, which is the way I have always done it. Whoops, syntax error. 15 times 40. So 600 is equal to 25x. Therefore, x must be, did y'all come up with 24? Hopefully you did. In case you want to be able to do this in your head, another way to do this is to reduce this value here by a factor of 5. 3/5 equals x over 40. And you'll still come up with the same number. 120 equals 5x. And if you divide, x is still 24. Okay, because it's all equivalent. This is equal to this, and I know that 15/25 in reduced form is 3/5. Okay? Here's another one for you. And rather than me write it out, I'm going to let you guys look at it. And I want you guys to try to solve it. I'll let you guys look at it, and I want you guys to try and solve it. I'm going to zoom in. Sorry, Paul, I'm using you to lean on it. That's better. The amount of hydrogen produced when sodium added to water. Very varies directly as the amount of sodium added. If 92 grams of sodium produces 4 grams of hydrogen, find the amount of sodium needed to produce 10 grams of hydrogen. All those big words mean nothing different from what we just got through doing. So 92 produces 4. So what will produce 10? Right? 4x is equal to 920. When you divide, you got, did you get 205? I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Hold on a minute. Say again? 230 would be better. When I try to do the arithmetic in my head, I got something crazy. Okay? So, the way they show it is the amount of hydrogen is related to a constant times sodium, and they solved it that way. I prefer using the proportion. Okay, that's how they solved it. The amount of hydrogen is related to sodium by the K, and that's kind of how they did it. They solved for the constant, and then they used it to find out how much would create 10 grams of hydrogen. Okay? Hydrogen is equal to a constant times sodium. They solved for the constant, and they plugged it in to solve for sodium. Proportion is much easier. If you want to do it that way, you can, but I think the proportion method is a whole lot easier. How do you guys feel about the one yesterday where you all needed to deal with absolute temperature, number 11? Other than Jesse, did anybody else have problems with that, or did you just write IDK and ignore it? Did you guys do okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure you did. Because I keep talking about your ACT and SATs. It's important to me that if something like this should come up, that you're able to handle it, okay? So I've got it all worked out, and I want to talk you through it so you guys can see how to get from A to B to C, okay? I want to talk with you a little bit about it. Okay. This book is probably worth money to some of you, right? So, what they tell us in the problem says absolute temperature is measured using the unit Kelvin. A degree on the Kelvin scale is the same size as Celsius. Okay, so for one increase in Kelvin, one increase in Celsius would also occur. That's all they're telling us by explaining that the sizes are the same. Okay, and they gave us this information here so that you know what is equivalent to what. 0 Kelvin is equivalent to negative 273 degrees Celsius. Okay? The volume of a fixed amount of gas kept at a constant pressure varies directly as its absolute temperature. Now, absolute temperature is Kelvin. Absolute temperature is Kelvin. Okay? And they say this. If gas occupies 100 liters at negative 13. Okay, well, I've got 100 liters, but I can't use negative 13 because it doesn't vary directly with Celsius. It varies directly with absolute temperature. So in order to find out what absolute temperature goes with 100 liters, I converted up 260 steps to get to or I converted down to get to, or up I should say, to get to 13, so that's 260, and that's how I figured out that negative 13 is equivalent to 260 degrees Kelvin, okay? Because they're the same size. That's the key there. From here to here is a change of 260 degrees, so since I know that, I can simply add 260 to come up with my Kelvin temperature, okay? What is its volume then at 26 Celsius? Okay, again, I don't really care about Celsius, that just so happens to be what they're giving me, but in order to utilize the Celsius number, I have to convert it to Kelvin. So, from negative 13 to 26, I increased it by 39, so I had to do the same over here. That then gave me the Kelvin temperature that I would use then to find out how many liters, or what the volume in liters will be. And cross-multiplying and solving for x, I came up with the amount of liters. Okay, so if they ever give you any questions where they give you unit types and they tell you it works for one unit, but I'm giving you this other unit, converting it from what they gave you, which was Celsius, to the one they want is how you're going to be able to get to do and solve. Okay? It wouldn't work if you use Celsius. It wouldn't work at all. Okay? Are there any others or any that you did yesterday that you felt like could use a little more explanation, or do you guys feel okay? All right.